Welcome. I call the finance meeting to order. Is there any public comment? Hearing none. By the way, hello, Gene.
Hi, Gene.
Next is approval of meeting minutes of July 3rd. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second? Oh, that's me.
That's you.
I will second the motion. Commissioner Hirschler is out today. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next is the topic for discussion today is the Carlisle Indian School project. Shireen, you want to start us off?
Yeah, good afternoon. I was last year in September of 2017, shortly following a feasibility study that was conducted by the Carlisle Indian School project team. So I relayed to you the results of that feasibility study, which came out very favorable, that this area could definitely support a heritage center that would tell our Native American and Carlisle Industrial School District. Since then, we thought it would be time to come back and give you an update. A lot has progressed on this project, and we wanted to share with you the visioning that's happened. Before, it was just a heritage center by itself, standalone on a proposed piece of county-owned land, and that idea is now matured into an actual concept and vision that we can use to stage future phases of the project. So we have with us today Jason Hollaby. He's the president of New Fire Native Design Group. He flew in last night to Harrisburg from Oklahoma. Thank you for making the trip. We had scheduled to do this presentation last month, but Jason just had a baby last month, and so we decided it would be good to give him a month with the baby before we do this today. And also accompanying him is Sandy Chinchilli, board president of the Carlisle Indian School Project. It is a 501c3 that was formulated in 2016, specifically in order to nurture and incubate and implement this project. Also with us today is Barbara Christie. She is the secretary and treasurer for the Carlisle Indian School Project. So I'm going to turn it over to Sandy's going to start the presentation, and then Jason will follow up, and we'll be happy to answer questions. We also have obviously representatives from our team here, Mason McClellan, real estate director for CADIC, and Valerie Copenhaver, senior director of marketing and tourism, and everybody knows JB Kirk.
Welcome. Thanks.
I'll get started. Thank you for having us.
Sure.
And we just wanted to give you an idea initially. We go around the schools and churches and talk about our program. And the first part of the PowerPoint is pretty much what we show them. And this explains to you, for anybody that hasn't seen it or been part of it. This is why. I'm going to give you the what this means to us and why, and also brag about my family. These are my relatives. She was, in this picture, she was 9 years old. She came in 1879. This picture was taken in 1883. And the center young man is was my grandfather's aunt and uncle. Her name was Bertha Chips. His name was Jeffrey Chips. So they were from the Sioux tribe, Oglala tribe in South Dakota. So this is family history for many, many, many Native people. We just talk about the experience of the school. It's a complicated story. But one that hasn't been told. So there's a lot of misinformation that's filled in the gap, and that's what's driving us. And we try to tell both sides of it because there were some amazing people that came out of it. Keep going. Naturally, Jim Furr. And also other things besides sports. You know, we're a famous band. And this is what the families look like when they came to visit. And what came out of it was National Pan American Indian Advocacy Organization was born in Carlisle, starting with the Society of American Indians and continued continued in Washington D.C. with the National Council of American Indians, and then it was a majority of Carlisle students who helped form the National Congress of American Indians. And this is contemporary, it's still alive and well today. So we also have a great reverence for the students that didn't make it home. And for 40-some years, we have had an event, Memorial Day weekend, and Mayor Tim Scott officially recognized that. So we're in the community too. We sponsor Jim Burke Sports Day, so we've been a part of this for the past 7 years. This was our last guest at Jim Burke Sports Days, Representative Deborah Holland. And here's the dream, and I will turn this over to Jason Holloway to show you how we're going to do it.
Right. So thank you guys very much. I appreciate the opportunity to come today and sort of talk to you about how things have evolved, especially over the last year. So I was engaged into the project by hearing the passion that Sandy and the rest of the board have and talking about this amazing history that happened right here in Carlisle that affected all of Indian country to some degree. And so I was fortunate, offered my services immediately. And I am president of a Native American-owned firm in Oklahoma. We do a lot of work for various tribes throughout the state and throughout the country. And when I go around and talk to the tribes about this, it's amazing. They all have family members or personal connections back here to Carlisle. So it's an easy project to get involved in. They were nice enough to bring me down and introduce me to the area and a number of the groups that have an interest in this project or an interest in the story and telling it. A number of groups right here now are telling portions of that story. So this group wants to tell the entire story of it, to make this, give it its rightful place in history. So with that, we started with the mission. The mission of this project and the Heritage Center is a place where visitors, native and non-native alike, can learn about the Carlisle Industrial School. The stories of its students and experience healing and understanding of the boarding school system. Our vision is to create a collaborative, sustainable legacy, honoring the achievements, struggles, and contributions of the students who attended the Carlisle Indian Industrial School, the first government-run Indian boarding school, to bring awareness to the general public of the Indian boarding school era's goals of education and assimilation. And so there's some pretty big objectives. And as we start the design process, this is what we need to understand. What are the long-term goals of the project? And this project actually has some pretty broad goals, right? This is a huge part of history. It's local history, it's state history, it's Native American history that crosses the country. It's part of U.S. history, and then ultimately world history. This is a big, big deal. And you guys have a pretty amazing network of historical and educational sites right here in the area that we want to plug into and become just as important as any of those sites. So some of the major goals are to create national and international tourist destination. Cultural tourism is a big thing right now. We've got people from a number of countries that are flying to the United States to learn about exactly these things. And then for the tribes themselves, we want to give them an opportunity to reconnect with their history. Again, these are their families. These are our families. And so it's very, very personal outside of that. As we start to look at the site and the area, we want to offer investment and diversification opportunities for both the tribes across the country and locally as well. And we'll talk about more of that. So partnering with local, county, and state governments to offer enhanced amenities in the area. As we went around about a year ago, one of the things that we wanted to understand is what can we do on this property to provide additional opportunities here for local people. You know, what are things that are maybe not offered in the community today that could support the mission of this program, and as well as the broader opportunities for the community. We want to continue to partner with local organizations who are already researching, telling portions of that story. We went to Dickinson College, AHEC, to the War College, to the Historical Society, and there's portions of this story that are already being told, and the opportunity is to not take those stories away or to divide those, but to actually work as a group to tell all of it and support each other. Again, we want to expand the Pennsylvania Historical Education Museum and Tourism Network that's already in place to capture this project. With the museum itself, we want to tell the entire story. All of those bad things that happened, the forced assimilation, the stripping of the culture and the language, which was very, very sad and unfortunate. The removal of these children from their families, but then on the flip side of that, all of the great things that came out of that as well. The number of kids that went back when they graduated and did great things in Indian country and for their communities. They were leaders. Obviously successful graduates in business and leadership, and the story of the sports teams and the band and the connection with the military and Ford Motor Company. There really is so much positive in the story as well. We want to create a space that allows visitors to feel what it was like to attend, to have a number of exhibits that show pretty specifically what the classrooms and the living spaces were like, the dormitories, the ideas that they were coming to somewhere that was very unfamiliar and sort of brought into a culture that was also very unfamiliar, and many of them did not speak the English language, and so that's a powerful part of the story. To leave home and arrive at a place where they didn't necessarily understand what was going on. So we want to develop bonds between current tribal members and the students from their tribes or their families that attended. We want to create a meaningful and impactful experience, not unlike the Holocaust Museum for any of you that have been there and what that means to the Jewish people. So from a programming perspective, we're going along with what the feasibility study said. We're looking at about a 15,000 square foot museum interpretive center. That's the building itself, and a number of outdoor exhibits that I know that you guys have seen the preview of what that looks like. We want to provide opportunities to learn, to play, connect with the outdoors, to be able to hold outdoor events, and to be able to learn not only about the school itself, but also the sort of the native history of the area prior to it being settled. Okay. On the outside of grounds, again, it's a very large site. Honestly, when we arrived last time we were here, we were expecting about a 25-acre site, and then we found out there was an opportunity for this 80-acre site. And so that opened some doors and allowed us to sort of expand our horizons. For the site and the exterior, some of the keys there are that we want to match the historical character and style of the original Carlisle building. It's very colonial type architecture. We wanted to incorporate sort of the balcony from Pratt's house overlooking the outdoor space. Sandy has told many stories about the impact that overlooking that site has on people when they can sort of envision the events that happen there, the graduations and all kinds of events out near the historic bandstand. We actually want to incorporate the idea of the historic Indian Pit as well as that bandstand. And then a big part of it you'll see in the concept is developing this procession as you enter the site. I don't want to do that too much. I think we can probably do it better when we get to the graphics portion here and talk about how we want to tell that story from the time people enter the site until they get to the building. And then provide a walkable site with outdoor trails and exhibits. There's a ton of opportunities for exhibits, from obviously historical artifacts and oral history, exhibit rooms, replicas of different amenities and buildings that were on the site, the tribute to those things that we talked about earlier with the school, with the band, and the military involvement, and the Society of American Indians that grew out of the people that attended. Okay, and then, like I mentioned, the other thing that we wanted to do is we've got the history, the historical portion of this, which is the interpretive center, but use the rest of the site for economic development opportunities for the tribes and independent investors, but in the context of showing how far the tribes have come since those days. Again, that sort of is the mission, to educate not only where we were, but where we are now and where we're going. And many of the tribes have grown enormously. They're doing big things economically. They are diversifying their interests across the country in retail and things like that. So that is where the rest of this development has the opportunity for tribes to invest and tell that story. And then we also want to do a lot of different things on that site to invite people to come and spend multiple days on site and in Carlisle. And you'll see some of that show up in the concepts. And then use it to cross-sell different attractions in the area. We don't want to just draw people to our site for a few hours and they leave. We want to give them reasons to stay, play, shop, do all of those things on site, and then understand what the larger area has to offer as well. Okay. So some of the things that we talked about in the Phase 2 commercial development are a destination hotel, convention center. You see a lot of commercial retail space, restaurants, an outdoor amphitheater for live events, a performing arts theater that can be used in conjunction with the museum itself, but also opened up to the community for film festivals or special events of all kinds. A farmer's market, grocery area, a children's park with a native themed playground, a lot of outdoor exhibits and demonstration, lawn space for festivals and other outdoor events, a native dance pavilion for powwows and other special ceremonies, water features, native sculpture and artwork, and then there's been discussions with the National Native American Hall of Fame about co-locating a facility for them on this project, which would be another, just a great chance to give people more things to do on this site, to learn about the broader Native culture. Okay, so all of that we try to distill and incorporate into the concepts. Looking at the broader area, you see the proposed site there with the red star. There's a number of things that tied to the Carlisle story with Dickinson College. You've got the historic districts there, you've got the War College, all around. You can start to see the circulation here from I-81, which is somewhat of a challenge. And it's not just for our site, but it's for the broader area as well. You can see on the northbound side, you have to exit here and it takes some winding through parking lots and everything really to have access. Same thing from the south. There's a couple of different ways to get there, but both of them are meandering and a little bit of a challenge. We'd love to look at opportunities about how we could provide better access on or near our site to better serve all of the things in that area. Zooming in a little bit closer, you can see that the original site, as we understood it, was a 28-acre site here, just across from the Army Heritage Center. And then when we were down last time, we had the opportunity to look at this 80-acre site. Again, both sites offer incredible visibility from the interstate, which is really a fantastic opportunity to draw traffic in and see, for them to be able to see easily, even if they can't get there easily right now, what all was going on this site.
It looks exciting enough, they'll find
That's right. That's what we're looking for. So as we start to look a little bit closer at the site, the first thing that we do is to look at a site analysis. So you can see here, We've outlined some opportunities. Clearly, this is close to the highway, which sound can be somewhat of an issue. I understand that there might be some long-term opportunities with development of the interstate to provide a buffer of some kind. I don't know that that's critically important. What we would try to do is pull the majority of things where we want them to be quiet away from the highway. This can allow us to maintain, if there was an ever opportunity to bring on-ramps or off-ramps through this portion of the property, we can start to set those things back. And the key is for us is to provide a buffer. We want, as people enter the site, that they can sense something different is going on. It really softens up and it doesn't feel like we're right next to a highway. And so we do that by softening it up with landscape, by softening it up with water features. In this case, our major entrance into the site is here at the Army Heritage Boulevard. You have to enter the site sort of in this area, which is kind of steep right now. But again, as you make that entrance into the site, we want to soften it up. We want to maintain visibility from the highway. And really, we wanted the museum to be central to the site and then let everything expand from there. Okay, another important concept of this is we know because of the size of the site and the amount of revenue that it's going to take, investment that it's going to take to develop this, is to look at a phased approach. The key to this whole site is truly the Heritage Center. And so, again, as we grow, you'll see how it all fits together. But phase one would be sort of the entrance here off of Army Heritage, entering into the site, starting to soften that approach, and to create this sense of arrival as you come up to the museum. In this case, we're showing phase one as the museum, the associated parking, the arrival elements on the exterior of the building, and the replica of Indian Field, and the bandstand or gazebo. Two is a number of the outdoor exhibits and elements. And I'm going to say the majority of sort of this story and how it fits in just a couple of minutes. But opportunity for a native village, some outdoor walking space. It would be great. There's nothing absolutely linear about this. It depends on fundraising to some degree. It'd be great to be able to do both of these phases together. Okay. And then we start to develop from there. In this phase 1B, we're calling it, is the Native American Hall of Fame. Additional parking that's associated with that, some dance grounds, and then starts the commercial development side of things. Okay? Plenty of retail space, outdoor walking space, and exhibit space, opportunities for Native artists to come in and do work. We're showing a hotel here. And then continuing to go around with more retail, restaurants. Again, we want there to be interactions both directions. It may be that someone's just coming to do a little bit of shopping or dining, but they have easy access to the museum, and vice versa. If someone's coming for a day to spend at the museum, but they can easily walk across to the retail space, to the restaurants, and enjoy the entire site. The theater, again, adjacent to the museum, cross-utilization, and outdoor amphitheater. Many of these things also came from discussions with the different groups about what they thought would be something nice to have in the community that isn't offered here today. So I think here I will talk a little bit about the overall context. This is developing into the overall final graphics. I will mention that this looks very finished, but in reality it's just sort of like a major starting. We're out of plan. This is a very flexible plan. We'd love to go out and speak to additional members of the community and the tribes themselves. We can adjust the plan as necessary to house different spaces on this plan. But that entrance story that I was talking about, so one of the most important things is this procession as you enter the site. As you enter here from Army Heritage, this is a traditional native village. And the idea is of the students that went to Carlisle, their home. And we've talked about using a combination of sort of native or structures from across the country that represent the different tribes and their homelands, as well as local tribes. From there, there's a train. So this is the idea of leaving their homes, traveling on a train to Carlisle, right? So very traditional structures, on a train, arriving at the train station, and then the architecture very much shifts to something different. As you drive in on this drive, we're showing 141 flags that represent each of the tribes that sent students to Carlisle. And as you enter the museum parking lot itself, we're replicating the entrance gates that are there at Carlisle. So it really is this sense of anticipation and this procession to a very big and different world for many of the students that were there. I think from there, I'll jump over, if I can, to the video that you guys may have seen.
Are you done with this then?
I think we'll come back to it if we can. We just minimized it, and the video should be at the bottom of the screen. Yeah. Right there,
That's one.
yes.
So,
Sounds See the yellow
Oh.
bottom? There you go.
Right there. Want to do more?
One more time. There you go.
There you go.
Sorry. Yeah, no, thank you. Perfect. Okay, so then we have a lot of still images, but I think really the video tells much of the story there. The importance, the opportunities that they are for local and diverse businesses from across the Indian country to come in and help support the mission of the museum through the telling of a broader story. I think we wanted to talk a little bit about next steps. So where we are today with the board is that they're continuing to raise funds to build awareness for this project through going out to tribes and leaders across Indian country to get the word out about what we're trying to do. There's 2 movies that are currently in production about Jim Thorpe and the Carlisle story.
Well, the Carlisle story is not in production yet, but there's 2 movies that are going to be coming out. The second, Bright Path, people were here earlier. I think their movie is coming out next year. They're going to mention Carlisle Indian School Project at the end, and so is the other movie. The other movie is going to be about Carlisle, and of course Jim Thorpe's going to be mentioned, but they are probably going to be coming out. It may not make it until next spring, but they want to come out, and they've contacted us for, which is a good sign, because the Indian people of California know about the Carlisle Indian School Project and said, well, if you're going to make a movie, you need to work with the people and give yourself some credibility. So they did contact us, and we feel pretty good about that. We also would like to put together a local, I don't know if Sheree mentioned all this stuff on anybody's toes, but we would like to have a local steering committee. This is your town, and we want to make this a collaborative effort. So whatever people that would be interested in working with us would like to know who that could be and what role they would play.
Right. And so that, in association with pulling out some pretty large potential investors, donors. There's connections with Ford Motor Company and the NFL, amongst a lot of other things. So now that we've got the concept that we feel like can really help build momentum, and they need to see that there's a plan, and we really have a plan. And then continuing discussions with local, regional, state officials about what the opportunities for partnering are. It's going to take a lot of effort on all of our behalves to really make this thing what we need it to be, what we want it to be. Negotiating the purchase of the land is a big ticket item. Having discussions about pushing those forward. What's the right time? When is the group able to do that? Understanding what the prices of that can be figured into the overall project budget. Securing those additional tribal partners and outside investors, with all driving towards funding phase 1 that we talked about is the priority. Doesn't mean that there won't be some overlap of phases. It just depends on who comes to the table and wants to develop what at one time. But really, the museum is the key piece for the group. And then once that land is purchased and at least phase 1 is funded, we would move forward with full design and begin the implementation process.
So far, these are our active sponsors. And we have the Chickasaw Nation, Mohegan Tribe, the Creek Nation, and Mandan, Hidatsa, and Worker. And we are, now that we have our plan, we are moving from a vision to development. we're going to be much more aggressive about reaching out to other tribes that we want to partner in either land ownership or in a group that would manage property.
So I think with that, we would love to hear any questions that you might have or comments, concerns.
I have a number of notes, and so I'll just kind of start the ball rolling with a handful of questions. Obviously, the land development aspect is going to require deep conversation with the township. Have we initiated discussion there with them? Have they seen this concept at all?
This plan has not been.
This plan has not been released. They were engaged a couple years ago with the original idea of a heritage center
Okay.
at this location, and they were very interested and amenable to, at that time, the way the project was scoped, zoning changes were not required. We will go back and look at that now with the enhanced scale of the project. I believe they will be supportive of the project. We've not gone too far wide with it, Gary, frankly, because it is county land, and we're sensitive. We're sensitive to that,
We've had a significant, this has been in front of us as well too.
Yeah.
We've had a significant discussion with some of the officials over there regarding when that land was first put up for sale. It was made clear that the zoning issue is in their hands, of course, and that they would have a large part of voice in terms of any proposed development there. So I would simply counsel that we engage them, re-engage them as early in the process as possible, so we can clear any hurdles there before we undertake other things. Also, I did see their name listed under on the last slide. Army Heritage Education Center. How much awareness do they have on what this is?
So we work very closely with them.
Okay.
I think I see a lot of overlap in where we could work together and enhance each other's events. The tribal relationship with the military is incredible. And they have we all have very
Sure.
deep interest in working with veterans and holding our veterans up.
And the folks at AHEC have expressed a lot of interest in seeing more of a development out there that would achieve a critical mass and benefit them as well,
Yes.
as well as others.
We talked about that too.
And the community. I guess the reason I raised the question is because you made several mentions regarding meeting space, convention space, whatever. And I know they're going down that path as well. They consider that a major revenue driver for them, for their success. So are we going to run into any competing difficulties there that they're going to object to that? Are they aware that the meeting component is a part of your plan?
They're not aware of this new plan, which is the enhanced vision. However, AHEC's model of expanded conference space is changing and evolving. It's not the original big music. They're actually looking for more museum space.
Okay.
And that has to do with the complexities of them getting into the catering business and supporting that need. So they're sort of at this crucifix of determining what avenues they can go down.
Okay.
And they seem to have pooled a little on the focus on big meetings.
So, like you mentioned, we definitely don't want to do anything that would compete. We want to support, we want to share amenities where possible. We definitely don't want to take anything from plans that someone else already has. So we're just part of that additional conversation because we're still at a point that we can modify this program to do the best that we can for every.
That's what my point of raising is just to avoid any surprises, so that people who could potentially be your allies instead become obstacles.
Right.
So as long as we're engaged there, I think that's very helpful. So, just had two other questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it sounds like from your programming, you're anticipating a fair stream of visitors from the Native nations themselves to come out and learn about this. That's a very different audience than maybe our standard four-member weekender family from North Jersey.
Right.
So how do you going to accommodate that? Different programming, or how do you see meeting the needs of both these very different audiences?
Right, I hear you, and I think it's part of the exhibit space, and it's part of the programming, because there is both sides of the story, like you said, it's a local, it's a state, it's a, native story, and we need to incorporate all of those things. And it has to do with the exhibits that we show, it has to do with everything else that's going on site, because we do want the four-person families to come and spend a day or a weekend here, but we also want to draw tribes from across the country. And that's a combination of how we market everything that we've got here across the country to all of the different tribes, and show them that the connections that they all have. And these guys have great ways of doing that, from printing certificates of every tribal member for every tribe that went, and taking those out to the tribes to see those connections personally. So it's a marketing effort.
It sounds like you've given a lot of thought already. Obviously, there's a lot of work to be done, so that's.
Well, what's different is with the tours, Circle Magazine, there's a difference in taking Mennonite groups and Methodist groups and, bigger groups. And then there's a lot of Indian people that come from Washington DC, because, a lot of the descendants. And it's an entirely different tour. But the message is still the same. There hasn't been enough information about what actually went on. So because for many years, I remember the literature that I first saw 10 years ago, the tourist literature, was the Cumberland Industrial School, 186 student graves. These were sites to go see. That was it. That was all that was written. So that leaves a lot of openings for misinformation, and there's a ton of it out there. And that doesn't help our people and your people getting bad information. Surely doesn't help our people either. So I think it helps everybody to know what that, yes, I would venture to say that most of the students that went there didn't have a good time. But some of them excelled. Some of them did. Some of them, their legacies are still going on. And we get to the benefit of those contributions, all of us. Jim Thorpe was, you're just finding out that he was the founder of the NFL. He was the first president of the NFL. He also founded the American Indian Actors Association. So I think there'll be a lot of surprises for everybody, and that includes non-Indian people.
Yeah, this is a U.S. history story that is not being told anywhere in the United States. And as I understand it, there's great international demand, international travel that would come to see something like this, to experience this.
Certainly, I agree, it's an underappreciated portion of our nation's history, but particularly in this area. So, now, you raised a point that makes I have to ask: do you see any competing or complementary relationship with the National Museum that the Smithsonian has opened in recent years?
Sure. I've got a couple of relatives that are working pretty high places there. And in fact, he's on our AWOL heredity horses. It's one of the what do you call it, whatever they do. And he's on our advisory board.
Okay.
We're also working with the Holocaust Museum and how to setting this up. We're not near ready to get to the interior of things or how it goes, but setting this up in a way that in the future when we're ready to go there, that we're considering everything we can. The Holocaust Museum are experts and done a beautiful job in portraying dark history. And so we're looking into that. We're working with the National Museum as well. And
It's
other
much more of
ones-
a complementary
Yeah.
relationship than it is competing, because this is a very specific portion of Native history, whereas the National Museum tells a broader history, you know. So to me, this is more hands-on, this is more focused.
It's obviously a very
specific
different
story.
concept,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, exactly, a different concept than everything else that's going around that, around it. So, that I think has the opportunity to draw people to a different experience.
They've had an exhibit about the boarding school era. So our whole thing would be like an exhibit to them. So they have much more to do. But they're aware of certainly aware of what we're doing and all for it. You know, it's far enough away.
Okay. I have one more question, I can't remember what it is, I didn't write it down, so. Excuse me.
Kirk or Shereen, this entire property is in Middlesex Township. Do we know the zoning of it?
It's a residential farm.
Residential farm. And I noticed on the concept plan, there's a lot of retail buildings. Is this going to be mainly Native American retailing?
I think it could be a combination of both. I think clearly we want the tribes to participate. This is an opportunity to have crafts from across the country from different tribes, to have art galleries, but also local businesses. Why not allow them to come in here and benefit from the large number of people that are going to be on this site? I think the group would be open to whatever makes the most sense.
You would be a little hesitant perhaps if it was bound to become an outlet center or something of that nature.
Right. No, I think it's more boutique shops, nice restaurants, that kind of thing. Not an outlet mall.
So is the goal for, I'll call it your typical visitor, come in, stay a night or two, versus come in for an hour or two, or does it matter?
I think the preference is to give them enough to do so that there's multiple night stays, right? And again, that's not only on site, but it's also by guiding them to everything else that there is to do in the area. Right? If we left them to stay in a hotel here, visit these museums, and then go to Natick, and then, you know, everything else that there is to do in the area as part of this history tour.
Remember the question.
Okay, that's all I have here.
Oh, okay, good. I wrote it down just in case.
Thank you.
I have to admit, I'm just not as knowledgeable on the Carlisle Public Schools as I probably should be. But so it is the first of the boarding schools?
First government-run.
First in government, of the government-run boarding schools.
There were missionary schools, especially across the country, a lot of them in Oklahoma, where the different religions came in and opened the school to, Americanize Indian students and bring religion to them. But this was the first government sponsored.
Off reservation.
Yeah.
The first class, which was made up of Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho, were brought there because they were, they were on very good terms with the military. And they wanted to have their children far away. So if there wouldn't be any shenanigans, you got your kids. So that was the beginning of that, and that wasn't the beginning of cutting hair and all the other things, but it was the beginning of doing away with totally no language, because most of the missionary schools were in their communities where they still had interaction with their families. And from there, it spread across the country. Richard Pratt was a great marketing guy, you know. And in fact, in Oklahoma, the Chilocco is one of the schools that was built in Carlisle's image. Other schools in other areas that I've heard all kind of numbers. I've heard 150 schools. I've heard 15. That's probably somewhere in between that.
Any of the other ones have a museum concept?
Yes, they do. The one in Nevada does. I think there's one in California that does. They were not associated with the residential schools up in Canada. That was something entirely different. But they were They were brutal, they were worse. That was one thing Canada did worse than we did. But in some areas where there was a higher Indian population, some of the tactics got pretty brutal here too.
All right, that's very bad, thank you.
Any staff members have any questions, or anybody in the audience? Comment?
I guess, just one question. When the final product's complete, you're looking at the master plan here. Do you foresee that you would subdivide and then other people would develop certain parts of the project, or would you be in charge of everything?
I think it's to be seen. Quite honestly, we've got to see what the opportunities are. I don't think that anything is set in stone right now. It may be a combination, but
I guess we haven't mentioned money at all. You know, so, I think you have a very attractive vision there. Do you have concept, sketch level planning estimates of what you may need and then where you're at in your fundraising efforts? Because I think it would be nice to have that as a guide for the county, as to where you're at and when a potential negotiation may come up for land sale.
right. So I can tell you, looking at a very high level, including exhibits and everything for, let's call it phase one, we're probably in the 10 to $12 million range for the development, from the front door up through the museum, including the field and the gazebo and the train and all of that outdoor exhibit space. Beyond that, obviously it's a much larger development, right? But it can happen in 15 phases, if that's what it could be, a building at a time, you know? So it's, you're well in excess of that. From a fundraising standpoint, quite honestly, there's a long ways to go, and it's because we didn't have a master plan and a vision that we can truly show momentum to people, that there really is a plan and not just an idea.
We needed to have some feedback from the tribes in order to figure out what a master plan would look like, that would be something they would be interested in, something that would be acceptable. This is a tremendous legacy, and it's a big responsibility to present it in such a way that they are, we are properly honoring the memory of our ancestors. So that took us some time, because Indians don't do things that quickly. But I think we're at a place now where we can get more ambitious and more aggressive with what we're doing. Plus, like I said, we've gone from visionary to developing, and we're going to pull other board members on that have the skill sets that will take us there. But it's a big comfort to have. A big question is, do we have, for them, it's always been, do we have the support of the community? Are we going to go there having to fight for it? And when we tell them no, the people were receptive, and we're working at the highest levels of this. They are very impressed and very much at ease. So that's a big thing for us too. So we really appreciate being on their behalf as well.
I think that reiterates, I'll just reiterate the point. I think you've underscored my point that the township really needs to be brought in.
Yes.
Very soon on this, so get there.
And probably several of them will come out here, several tribal councils will come out here, and we will be able to bring them, and we'll make sure that we make appointments and make sure that they get to meet and see everybody, and we get to see them. So.
Anybody else have any questions?
Very interesting.
All right, folks, thank you for coming in. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Do we have any other business to discuss? Finance? Sandy, anything?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So
To adjourn. Thank you.